Morning, Sandra.
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
I'm fantastic, actually. I went for a
Yeah,
run.
you
I'm
went for
pumped
a
up.
run?
I went for a run, and
No.
I'm. It's just about marketing today. I'm ready to do marketing. I'm ready to do strategies. I'm ready to send that email, send that cold DM.
No emailing anymore. Just a heads up, we are done with that.
Oh, it's. I'm
It's
late. I
over. It's
finally got on
over.
board, and it's over.
No,
That's
it's over. We found better ways than so. And you were maybe an inspiration for that because you kept saying no, 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 cold emails, and then I had to
yeah,
find
but that's
other
just
ways.
because I'm lazy and I don't like doing that. It's not really. Don't
Yeah.
listen to me. It's a pretty good strategy.
Yeah. But I think today we prepared something interesting for people, and I'm ready to kind of because I woke up with so much inspiration and motivation and everything. So I think we are ready to share all of that.
Let's do it. Yeah, so marketing, we're gonna go through a structure today. So look at us being all professional. We're gonna go from how to get the initial idea and validate it, and then kind of understand the audience, the target group, how to optimize for that target group, how to change your copy and so on, and then how to choose marketing channels based on that, and then finally wrapping it up and also showing how we did it and what success we have, because that's a lot easier to understand when we have real life examples. So we're probably going to talk about Clue and Shipixen and how launching that
LB.
went, LB as well, yeah, and how launching those went, and then what strategy we have, and also how it changed over time, because that's the I think one of the takeaways will be that this is in constant flux. You always need to experiment, because, and I think you said this, Sandra, that marketing is a thing specific to the product. It's never a one solution fits all. You always have to adapt it to the product and build
Oh
it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is that am I quoting you correctly?
You are very good. Very good job, Dan. But it's true. I think when we talk about marketing strategies, you have different channels and ways of doing that. But for each product, it always depends either from messaging, landing page, what you're trying to achieve. So you kind of have to take all of that in consideration and then move forward. But it's fun.
Marketing can, I mean, please, Lara, cut this out of the final edit, but marketing can be fun. I think even if you're a hardcore designer or a hardcore developer, you're really good at your craft, the fact that you convince a person to buy your thing can bring a lot of satisfaction, a lot of joy. And it's just it's hard, and because it's hard, it's very it's very rewarding when it works. And a
Yeah.
lot of things won't work, and that's also what makes it even harder, because you still have to keep going and experimenting. Right, that's
Yeah.
my experience, at least. I don't know if you have the same.
Yeah, I think like indie makers have a great ability of figuring out things when it comes to code and the problems and the solution. And if they would approach the same way to marketing, I think they would find it fun. But, and I think many makers, like even you, Dan, there is this wall between you having the idea and then thinking about it and then building stuff. And then there is this certain wall. But once you go over that wall, it's much easier to do marketing
Yes.
because there is this process of figuring out things. And then when you see something that something is working, then you can just double that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, the other takeaway that they're gonna have here. But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk. So later in the show, we're gonna show you examples of what worked, tweets, landing pages, copy, even some lemon squeezies, some emails, some dashboards, just to show how a validation could work. But let's start from the beginning. The
Yeah.
initial the initial idea, the initial spark, right? How does that start for you?
Well, I had something happening. So, I mean, we all know about Clue and Shipixen, and we're going to talk about it. But at least in the past 2 weeks, something happened with me and LB in the sense where I need to figure out this validation and what do we consider validation? Is this valid enough for me to actually go into and build something around it? Interesting thing about LB, it was a problem that was brought or like brought to me in the sense that I've noticed something happening. And then, so just back a little bit story, backstory
Back
about
up, yeah.
LB. Back up. Let's back up, Sandra. I've noticed in PostHog that I'm getting a lot of referrals from certain Medium article. And I wanted to test and see if this would work with different type of writers as well. So, and it did, but it worked for me. Is it a problem big enough for other people? That's the question. And would you put your time and effort into it? So I had to like think about like how we're gonna validate that. We build a website on the show, but then there is also you like the idea, I like the idea. Does anyone else like the idea? And it was like
And not our friends.
and
Just
not
very
friends.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. We know about mothers. They definitely don't like the ideas, but like, so it was a simple tweet, me saying goodbye emails. I've noticed this in PostHog. I think it might work for other people, and this is how we can do it. And it got like 200 bookmarks and sales. Do
There
we
you go.
consider that? Do we still consider that a good validation to move forward with the project?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a good way to do it because you haven't risked that much by doing okay, the website itself that we literally did that I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, and it took 1 hour maybe, if that. And you haven't spent time on building the product yet. You've spent time on thinking about what this is and the messaging. So if people say, well, this is never gonna work, or it's just negative validation, then well, we haven't wasted much on it.
Yeah.
We just move on, no problem. And but you didn't get that. You got essentially any positive feedback, and I think we even asked for pricing, and we asked some people how much would you pay for that, and a lot of people would say, like, first of all, they say they would pay for that, which is already a good sign. And then also the amounts were pretty good, so it wasn't I would pay $5 for that, because that's already
Yeah.
a sign that okay, maybe it's not that much value. So it definitely an effective way to do it. But that's also I think one of the themes here is before you do that, it's a lot easier to validate if you have either some sort of audience or know how to reach people. So you need some sort of you posted this, you have a lot of followers, it was easy for you to get feedback on it. And I think it's a lot more tricky if you don't, but there's still ways to do it. There's still maybe on X you do a video, you do a funny video perhaps, or something that you get a little bit out of your comfort zone and you become creative and you speak about your idea like that. And I think some of the examples that we've seen with Max Blade
Oh
and
yeah.
Juan Ho, which didn't have, let's be honest, didn't have a following. No one knew who they were. And through these videos, they managed to validate their ideas. Or maybe you do something similar on Reddit, right? If you know how that
Yeah.
works.
But one thing to add about Max, when he started, he didn't have a bunch of followers, but he knew which people he's targeting. So he knew to position himself in the right community at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, but I can tell you also a bit about how I validated Shibixon and how that came to be. And you don't know the story at all.
I
We
don't
talked
know.
about the show. Yeah. So I think around summer, I wrote this tweet. I cannot find anything on Twitter anymore, but I wrote this tweet and I said, well, I have all these projects. So it all came from me trying different ideas, launching different projects, and then accumulating these sort of templates So the next time I do a project, it's faster. And after I do that, I go back, I update the template, and it gets faster and gets faster. And at some point, I tweeted saying, well, I actually have this folder on my computer that I think has a lot of value. Like, should I make it a product? And I keep improving this. And I think that got some positive feedback, but I didn't act on it, and that was a mistake because I could have been a little bit ahead of a wave. Because what happened was that I can't remember, but towards the end of summer, maybe early autumn, Mark Liu did this, and it's not to say that he looked at my thing and got the idea or anything. I don't think he even knew who I was at that time, but anyway, he got a similar idea, and I think a lot of people got a similar idea, but no one thought how to position this and how to price it. So he launched this, and then I saw, okay, this is doing pretty well, and I have the same thing. But even so, when I start a project, there are a lot of repetitive steps. Like, even if I had Mark Liu's template, there would be a lot of repetitive steps to that. So that's what I wanted to optimize for myself. When I start, I don't have to go through all this configuration, to resize images, to change all these names, to change all these titles, all the descriptions, and it seems like a little bit of work, but it's 3 days of work usually. You tend to underestimate it, and then the energy that you start with to build a product fades away because you've spent
Yeah.
3 days on putting titles and descriptions, and but you need a landing page, and then you need some sort of style, and you just put all the excitement that you have in that, and then you end up not having any energy for the product, and then you never ship it, right? So
But there is a slight difference here, because usually people jump into the product itself of building, but now we are talking like one step before with Shipixen.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So before that, I kind of had a rough idea, but this wasn't a product, right? It was just some files that I had. I guess you can technically sell files, but that's, to me, it's a little bit far-fetched to call that a product. So what I did, I'll just share my screen. I quickly made an app, just local app, that literally had, let me show you. It was literally having inline to-dos. I don't know if you can see here, like to do configure something. And I tweeted about it, and I said, well, I think I'm onto something. This wasn't even MVP. I didn't even have a name for it. You see, there's no name. And I thought, let's put it out there and see what people think, because, there's all sorts of hype around the topic. And I showed it. I just showed with a few arrows how this works, and this got freaking 170,000 views and a lot of hype around it. And at that moment, I knew, okay, I need to make a website, and I need to have a pre-order, because one thing is people hyping it and telling you this is a good idea. Another thing is people actually buying this thing, and that is the only way to validate something. People buying it, not a wait list,
Not
not
a
someone
wait
putting.
list? Oh my God, then you broke so many hearts now.
Wait lists. I think it makes sense to have a wait list if you already have some sort of product behind you, if you're a VC backed startup, and if you have, a marketing team behind it that could do this, maybe that makes sense. I don't want to experiment, see if what works for you. I don't want to discount it, but I think for indie makers, wait lists are just a way for you to postpone launching the product.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
So I'm here on the Wayback Machine. This is what I did. I bought a domain real quick. I made a logo with Mid-Journey, I think, which is kind of sketch, but I kept it. I tried to improve it over time because it's. I asked for a 3D logo, but the perspective is a little bit skewed. So anyway, I put in the copy. This is how I started. I put in the copy without. I'm still at the stage where I don't have the product. I came out with a price which was completely wrong, but we can talk about that. You're probably gonna get it wrong anyway. And I tried to the best of my abilities to explain what I'm building, what's gonna come out. And I did a pre-order discount, which is you need to have a little bit of a nudge because there's no product here. Like you're selling something that isn't even you don't even have a demo yet for it, right? Where I had some screenshots. Yeah, and I wrote down the copy. I put on some of the features that I knew I'm gonna include. Can't remember if I got all of them in the first release, but it doesn't matter. You can get them later as well. And I put this up, and 41 orders came in over. So this tweet was 18th of October, and then I built the website and the copy by around the 20th. So that was 18 on 19, and the 20th I've launched it, and then 21st I marketed it, and then 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. So this is actually roughly 48 hours. It made $1.7 thousand, which is pretty much my idea was if I sell 10 of these, it's validated. I'm actually
Yeah.
building the MVP for this, right? And I got 4 times that. So definitely validated. And I think I increased the price. That was the
Did
slowdown
you
that you
increase the
see here.
price?
Yeah, because you
You
see
increased
the
the
average is 42, and then in here it was 36. And when I saw like orders kept coming in, I increased the price. And I had, yeah, the first 20 were limited. You can even see in this snapshot. So after, I don't think I wasn't even fast enough. Like I think I went to sleep when I had 10, and then next morning it was like 28 or something. So I wasn't even, this wasn't kind of true. I kept it going. Then I increased the price, and then it slowed down. So that also goes to show that this, even though the product itself was undervalued, it was a good pre-order spot for this, right? So that was not. And the other thing that I did when I saw this tweet worked very well, I doubled down on it. So I quoted it. Yeah, you can see here. I just quoted that tweet. Was this the next day, I suppose? No, on the
Oh, it got
20th,
even
right?
more.
And it
Yeah.
got even more. So that is the thing. If you found what works, double down on it. And the
Yeah.
difference here was that I switched from the image screenshots to a video of the same thing. I cleaned it up a bit. I removed the to-dos basically, just kept it simple. And I did like a 1 minute video showing how this works and showing the result of it. And this did even better, and it was essentially the launch tweet. So no product hunt, no other things like that. That came a lot later, and we can talk about that. But this was it essentially.
But it also spoke to the community, the product itself.
Yeah. So the backstory is I've been already doing at that point products for developer. So pretty much all of my products are in the dev tool developer area. And I've been doing products for 1.5 years or so in the area. So it was a good match for the people that I've the people that
Engaged
were
with,
in my
yeah.
engaged with
Yeah.
that were following me essentially, right? So that's something to keep in mind, because if you've been talking about marketing and all of a sudden you launch this, that's not going to work the same way. And it's back to the initial thing. It's a lot easier to validate if you already have the audience, and if you don't, you have to get a lot more creative. But even so, I didn't have 190,000 followers, right? I think at the time I don't think I had 10,000, probably 6 7, something like that. And so it wasn't a huge audience, to be honest. And it went so far outside of that audience because the content was good, because the idea was good. And that's what you should focus on when you validate. Focus on what your target is and how do you communicate with them. And that's the second point, Sandra. How do you understand the target audience? How do you get there?
I think in both of our cases, and even let's bring Max into it because he really fits this. But I it's in your case, in his case, and then I'll talk about me. But you both knew the target audience. You've both kind of like engaged with that before. And interesting for you, you had a problem like it was your own problem, so you knew how to communicate that problem as well. So when you were validating Shipixen, you already knew who's going to use the product. So you didn't go outside of your comfort zone pretty much.
Yes.
So for me, when I started Clue, I had like no idea where this product will fit. I knew the problem is quite big. And for Clue, it was interesting process of validation because we immediately went also, we built kind of MVP, we had something. And then we went immediately to companies and tried to sell that product. And it worked. We sold like Clue to, I think, 10 companies in January. That's how we knew, okay, like we need to raise money on this. There is something happening here. Let's figure it out. But so that was a validation process for Clue. Building the idea, we had idea, then building MVP, it took like 2 weeks, and then let's sell it or let's try to sell it. We managed to do that. And then you kind of, so that's cool and nice. But then I was put in the situation where I need to figure out, okay, who am I actually targeting? Who are these people in these companies and how to scale this? So I knew that there were tech companies. I knew these were product managers, very techy people that are using. And for Clue, it was quite obvious because of the apps or integrations we had. So, when you take a look at Slack and Notion and Gmails and Drives and all of these things, these are kind of like tech companies, startup people, product managers. Later on, we kind of like fixed it with other integrations to scale outside of that circle. But I knew that it's techie people and I need to find a space where I can build this story around Clue. But in the same time, I needed to find people that were willing enough to try this product because Clue is quite complicated in the sense of you need to integrate your apps. There are different things and data information on these apps. People that are trying these apps need to be willing enough to try. So this community, so I went into indie maker community quite accidentally, I would say, because these people were open enough to test the product and also give the feedback for me. So in that sense, I had to position myself, but also Clue into circles that were fast enough to try the product and then give me the feedback. So validation for Clue was, can we sell this? Very similar to you, but we were thinking at that point in a very startup way. So can we find a right company? Who are the teams in these companies? Do we have any contacts there? How do we reach out to these people? So yeah.
So
So
did you know that this is the case at that point already? Did you know this is maybe not the right target group or you were just experimenting?
I think at that point, it was the only way for us to validate the product. And it was, let's say, the fastest way to validate the product because our backgrounds were in companies and startups. I don't know what happened, but there is a firework behind me. So it's all good.
Yeah. That's it's just I think even Riverside got super excited about Clue
Oh,
and
yeah,
the way you
for sure.
validated it. Yeah. So
But what I'm trying to say is that at that point, it was the only way for us to validate something fast enough to move forward. In your case, it was going online. I have this group of people that I've already engaged with, and I know the messaging. For me, because that was my background, I was able, I was faster or able to like get these companies or teams that I already knew to test and validate the product for me.
Yeah. So how did you then discover the right target audience after this initial stage?
I think you dig kind of deeper. So if you have different types of people using the platform, you can definitely dig deeper into, but this is one step already where you are digging deeper into analytics and seeing who are the active or daily active users, who is returning to the platform. You know, in the our cases would be the ones like in particularly in your who are the ones that paid for this product,
Mm-hmm.
what are they are doing on daily basis, how often they are coming back to the product. So you can build an image of a perfect target group and go and hunt them, but also you need to get back to like who are the people that already paid the product or the who are the ones that were in the process of validating. So
Yeah.
for me, it was like we sold it to companies, but for which teams we sold this were these product teams, marketing teams. In our case, it was product and marketing teams. So we knew that there are like managers, marketing people. In manager case, it was because he was the middle person of asking or someone who is getting asked a lot of questions daily. He was the someone who is like using multiple different platforms because he knew or he needed to navigate multiple different informations between different teams. Marketing people because they are using different apps. There is a lot of content going back and forward. And then particularly the important part was like communication between these different teams.
Yeah. So you
So
build
there,
a persona essentially
yeah.
early on, and then you figure out where does that persona hang out essentially,
Oh
right?
yeah. Then you move to channels. Then
Yeah.
you move to channels and where they are. But
Yeah.
essentially it was like, okay, we have this idea, let's try to validate. And then once
Mm.
you validate, you dig deeper into building these personas one by one and then figuring out where they are.
Yeah. So for me, it was this, but it was a little bit difficult to focus because when you dig deep into this, I found out who's buying the product. Well, somewhere from the education slash university slash starting to learn the target group industry. I want to say if that's an industry. Some were developers, some were indie makers, some were subgroups of that. So specifically backend developers, perhaps that don't have design skills, which is essentially what I'm aiming at right now for those that have a hard time designing and getting a landing page up and getting a blog up, for those that have a hard time setting up a website for SEO and of those. So I tried to cater for too many target groups initially instead of just picking one, instead of just making one persona, one group. And that meant that as I was going forward, the landing page was a huge struggle because how do you address all of these target groups at once?
You
And
don't.
you don't, and it didn't work for any of them as
Yeah.
a result, instead of just, okay, make it work for one. And for a long time, I specifically didn't target indie makers, and that was essentially one of the biggest mistakes. And why I say if you found out a strategy that works, double down on it. And I did that for 2 weeks, and then I thought this is wrong. I don't want indie makers to be I want agencies to use this. And okay, and what channels do you have then to reach those agencies? What
Yeah.
examples do you have? You didn't validate it with agencies, you validated with developers and indie makers. So double down on that target. That was a big mistake for me, and then I got
Oh, that's a
back.
great point, Dan. That's a great point because like if you try to go outside of the bubble you already have, you really need to be confident enough that you have right contacts that you can push that and scale that as well. Because if you're just starting out or are building a product for the niche you have no idea about, it's going to be super hard to get that initial validation, feedback, and figure out who are these people.
Yeah. So I think I got ahead with that. I tried
Mm,
to jump ahead, and the natural way of this happening is your initial target group. If you nurture that, they will eventually show you other paths, other channels that you could try, but you need to wait for them to take the product, maybe use it at their work. If you so a lot of
mm,
products start as B2C, then people take it at their work, they like it, then you get some B2B leads, and then you understand what companies could work in B2B, and then you take it from there. But if you try to jump and say, okay, I'm going to do B2B now, there's no validation at all that it will work, and I don't really
mm,
have any customers there, but I'm going to switch my marketing to that because that's where I want to be. I'm going to have a pretty hard time getting into that. And that doesn't mean don't experiment, but view it as an experiment, and have this one target group as your main thing, and do the experiments to of course you always have to do these because you might not get it right, and there's a pretty big chance you didn't get it right, but don't touch it if it works. Pretty much
no, yeah.
that was my learning. And then do the experiments and find the better channel, find the better
Mm,
audience while this is still working well. It's a lot more demotivating to do it if it's working well. You kind of tear it down, you change the audience, and then it's not working as well as it did before. So that's also a mistake that I made. And I think around December, November, December, it went very well. It was doing $8,000 a month, maybe even 9,000. I can't remember. And then I changed it and I tried to appeal, and then down, I think last month or in June, it went down to like 1,200. Granted, I also didn't do as much marketing as before
mm.
because I was jungling a few things, and then I thought, well, this is bad. Like I'm really going into a bad direction, and I reached out to the initial audience that I had, right, my main channel, and I asked, why is this not working? I said, this is pretty crazy that you can do that. It's pretty crazy that this website is free, x.com, sign up.
Oh, oh, oh. I was
and,
following and you lost me.
and I asked, hey, it's not working. What should I do? And people said, well, put a video, talk about the product, show the product. They said, this looks like a lifetime deal. Why don't you have a lifetime deal? They said, you have a lot of things built in, all these components, all these templates or landing. I go on the homepage and I don't see any
Yes.
of those. Like I have
Yeah.
no idea that I'm gonna get those. I need to go deep, so I'm already out of the website by the time I realized this. So I changed those, and then this month I'm back to 3,000. So I'm basically have
You use the
200%.
firework now.
And there's no firework. No, it's not as impressive as Clue, right? So that's the lesson, and that was a mistake as well, that I didn't really understand the audience. This is exactly the second point. And the only way, I mean, we're talking about this, and I really hope people listen, because if I was in the same position, I would think, yeah, I know better. I know my product. Don't listen to
Mm.
these people, but listen. If you find something, double down on that,
Yeah.
and don't get greedy. Don't think you know better. And I think I was on a podcast with the Solos podcast with Martin
Mm.
Donadieu. I like my French. That's nice. And we talked about the same thing, that we're so self-centered, and we're our ego is massive, and we think,
Mm.
yeah, this is how you should do it, and whatever this person tells me that their lesson is, I know better because here's the size of my ego and I'm
Mm.
this good. And if I learned one thing, is that the more you build, this ego that you have kind of gets smaller and smaller, and you realize you don't know anything, and
Exactly.
you should listen to all these people that have improved their sales, and and try to put it in your context. It's not always easy to take that, transpose it, and put it into your product. That's true, and sometimes it doesn't make sense at all. I mean, if you're doing a product for dog owners, and I'm talking about Chipixon for developers, I don't know if there's as many lessons, but some of the things are true. Double down on what you see works is true regardless. Understand your audience, and then choose your marketing channels. This is the third topic we have. How did you do that with Clue? Like, what was your path to choose the channels?
I just want to add one thing before we move to that, but
Yeah.
you mentioned something. There is a huge difference between Shipixon and then building a different app. But one thing that we all, or like these type of the products have in common is like the person who is building this, where this person figure out the problem, how much influence you have around that. So, you know, we had Mary,
Yes, Marie.
yeah, talking about how she wanted to build an app for the dog and how we want but she never like had a problem. She had love for that, but she had no idea like about the industry and how it works and etc. So like these type of I think the best way of building the product is like when you are in the situation where you have this problem, you understand the industry, and then you can like move forward because it's so much easier to get the feedback from that. Talking about the channels.
Yeah.
So for me, it all started, it was like this whole process of me figuring out where the people are and what type of or at least what type of people I needed at that time to move forward with the product. And I knew I need people that are open enough to test the product, that were already using these apps or were familiar with the apps. And this is where I went to like social media and then trying to figure out which channel there would be the best. I knew LinkedIn wasn't the option because I had MVP of a product. And if you want to sell or present something on LinkedIn, those people are super professional like yourself there. And they get bunch of messages all the time of people asking them to try the product. So I knew that the Clue is not the right fit at that stage. And all other things required too much time and effort to do, and I wanted to move super fast. So this is how I went on X. And there, like if you take a look at the social platform you choose, there's so many things there and communities, that each community has its own world. So you really need to like find the right community where you're going to position yourself. And again, it comes from the people you want to try and test the product. So for me, I kind of stumbled up this indie hacking community and then kind of positioned Clue there and figured out people I wanted to test the product. And I think that was an interesting process because even in this community, you will see, I think why people were open enough to test the product is because I was doing the same thing for them. So there was like this mutual understanding and relationships we were building at the beginning. X was one of the ways. At the beginning, it was the most important channel. This is how we went on Product Hunt and launched the product there. This is how we built the whole hype around Clue. So I wouldn't say X or the group of people that I was targeting at the beginning are relevant now, but they were definitely important people to build this identity for Clue.
Yeah, it was an important stepstone that you had to
Oh,
go
for
through.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure. Like they were the ones that gave us initial feedback, that worked on the product. And then in the same time, I started product hunt campaign and that lasted for like 5 weeks. And then the whole army at one point came to the product hunt and there was a huge support. And then from product hunt, it actually like started to become something from like media side and like bunch of mentions and then, but none of that would be possible if I didn't have this type of the community there.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I had ability to dig deeper into data, and I think that's super important because then I had different type of people that came from product hunt, different type of people that were paying, and then you had different type of people requesting different things. So there was like multiple different um, things happening in the same time. And then I had ability to dig deeper into data and to see like who are these people, where can I find them, what are the best channels. So yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, so that just goes to show when you start, you need to be clever about the channel you're
Oh,
picking,
for sure.
because you might get a lot more for less effort. That's kind of what I'm getting from what you're
Mm.
saying, that you kind of picked something that you don't really view as a main target audience or main channel right now, but it was very approachable in the beginning, and it got to the actual channels that you needed later.
Oh yeah. 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 And I think you need to be super strategic about it because I was like, I had Google Sheets of people that I have interacted every single day. And I knew where I stopped so I can come back and continue the conversation. And I've done that multiple times, like this type of like strategic way of thinking or like just having a proper to-do list is much easier to follow the process and the numbers just to see what's working the best.
Hmm. Yeah.
Later on, like, okay, now we all, like, I think we all reached these levels where you want to move away from X and figure out other channels that are working as well. So like right now, like there are different social media channels that work for Clue, but then I'm also like experimenting with ads, I'm experimenting also with SEO, and I can see different thing improvements. So even when you take a look at like SEO, which I think you have so much more to say than me, I'm just a
Hmm.
baby, but even there are so many things you can focus and see what works, what doesn't work for the product itself.
Hmm.
So one of the interesting things what I've saw with SEO, so that SEO was the main channel for companies to find Clue.
Yeah.
And that's like, and then you double on that.
Hmm.
Okay, what are the exact articles these people find us through, and how can we improve that?
Yeah, what's the
And why
conversion of those articles also, right?
exactly?
Mm.
So like, it's the story is different in these articles. So we are not talking about anymore about like building a new landing page, but we are just talking about the article that is the story is totally different than the Clue main landing page.
Yeah.
So in the process of this, you figure out different ways, even in the target audience.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. um that's super interesting. um I think SEO is a lot more useful if you have this heavy data focused approach as you do, and that is also one of the, there are different ways to do this, but yours is very factual data oriented.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
I'm
you got
crazy.
the tracking, and you look at works, if this thing brings users, if it brings paying users, even because you look at the whole thing, sometimes that there's a big difference between the two, and
Oh
then
yeah,
one channel that
oh yeah,
brings a lot of users might not actually be as good. It's just as simple as that. I'm not as good as it as you are at this, but for SEO, I'm looking. There are different tools to track user behaviors, but you're gonna use PostHog, and then for SEO, you're gonna use Ahrefs, and you're gonna use Google Search Console. But it's heavily data influenced. I mean, I look at the keywords, I look then at the article, I look at what actually converts as well, and what
yeah.
actually keeps the people longer on the page. So it's not just hacking SEO to get impressions and clicks.
Oh yeah,
And it makes a lot more sense to do SEO when you have the data to back up what works, and instead of just shooting it in the dark. But that's SEO is all about that. It's all about analyzing your own things, analyzing the competitors, analyzing their backlinks as well. And then sometimes a backlink means more than It could mean a channel as well.
Mm,
So just looking at backlinks, we're looking today at a backlink for Medium, and we discovered there was a conversion from it, and there were a lot of competitors there as well. And then that person might have a website, a directory, a newsletter, and
mm,
that might be a great channel that you've just discovered by looking at the
mm,
data.
mm. Yeah, I think that's super interesting to mention. You're 100% right. Like, if you take a look at the conversion rate or just views, they are so different. And so I have this thing where I don't look at the views at all in my pass hog. I don't care about it. Like, it's a different type of marketing if I would care about that. It would be more about the brand and visibility, and
Yeah,
that's a
big brand
different
stuff.
story.
Yeah, yeah,
That's totally different story. I think for us it's more about which channels work the best for you. And if you take then if you take from that perspective, like, there is a certain switch because we might focus more on X or the community, but also in this, you can figure out that, like in my case, GitHub is like in top 3 places, and it has been like that from the beginning when
yeah,
it comes to conversion rate. The views are not that high, but the conversion is.
yeah,
So that's that type of the things you really need to pay
yeah,
attention. So yeah, building a community and then figuring out social media, which channel works the best, but then the supporting channels, the ones that you can experiment with and see
yeah,
if they're working or not.
yeah.
But one thing about SEO, I didn't start SEO like in, I think it went 7 or 8 months when I like actually started to care about when it comes to Clue. One of the reasons, because multiple times when it comes to these projects, you change, you switch the story, you do. I don't know I guess the reaction really likes me to say, but you might build your SEO strategy and then figure out, okay, this product, this type of the story doesn't work for me, it's not for the right audience, and then you need to switch it and change it. And that's very hard for, when at least when I was thinking about SEO, I didn't know, like, will Clue be the same as, in the first few months. So
Yeah. SEO is it's quite the investment. That, and I wouldn't maybe not wait 7 months, but I wouldn't start with it in the first after you validated and launched. I would then maybe start to think about it if you know this thing works. So there's there's a good chance that you will spend this effort and then change your positioning, so then all of your keywords and so on won't be as relevant if you do it too early. So yeah, it's a balance. It's hard to say when to start it, but I wouldn't start in the first month, maybe even first 2 months. And then if I think I kind of got it now, I kind of got the copyright, because that's also where you get the keywords initially, because you have no idea. Then I would double down on SEO, and that also takes time because you need to do link building, and then you need to do a lot of consistent work on articles and improve your ranking. It's very hard to start this work, and then maybe after this is in my experience, after 6 months you kind of see some results, and then you move from shooting in the dark to actually checking Ahrefs, to actually checking competitors and Google Search Console, and to see the keywords there, and to see not only branded keywords but maybe some long tail keywords that you rank for. You double down on those, and so on.
I'm thinking that we need a boilerplate for marketing,
I think
because like
so.
we are talking about, so, and there's so many different channels,
Yeah,
so
but
many different channels. You can really get, like, it's a positive thing to know there are different channels. And the issue is that with each of these different channels, there are multiple, as I said, communities and people that you can probably target in, but it can really get overwhelming. And I think what we are trying to say is that you need to choose one, two, or three
not.
channels. Even
Yeah,
that
that's
is like
already
too
too much.
much.
Yeah, that's too
That's
much.
already
Yeah,
too much.
yeah, yeah. 2 channels. is probably what you can do as a solo
Yeah.
maker. It's already a lot. So if you already have Reddit, let's say, and that works well, add SEO to it, and those are your two channels. And then just keep the instead of doing the third one, do experiments, but don't double down. And those experiments might make you think, okay, maybe this could actually work better than the Reddit channel. And then you leave that on the side, and then you switch to the new thing. And these experiments are sometimes really clear. As you did experiments with micro influencers, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
newsletters, yeah.
yeah. And
And
when you're doing the experiments, make sure that these are like 5 days experiments, not more than that.
yeah,
Like not in the sense that you have invested certain amount of time, you can move forward and then you will see the results. You know how to follow these results. So when it comes to experiments, don't look at them like a building a new channel. That's the most important thing.
yeah. Well,
You need to be able to move.
you did the newsletter thing, and that
Yeah,
wasn't even 5 days, or was it?
yeah. I think I've scratched in a day, you can scratch like thousands and thousands and then shoot and see what's happening.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And it was pretty clear if it works or not.
Oh, yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
didn't, yeah, there was
Yeah.
no question. Yeah, so that is about it. I don't know if you want to cover something else. We've been
One
rambling.
thing that is interesting
Yeah,
that there is a huge difference and I haven't tried are free tools.
yeah. I can talk about that. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good point. So this year, especially, instead of launching new products, I changed to launching free tools for existing products. And I think for us, it's important to still have the space for creativity to launch something. But instead of creating something from scratch, which we all know is a lot of work, you can strengthen the product that's already making some sales. And the free tools are very interesting because you also strengthen your SEO with them. And then with each of the free tool, you can do a mini launch or just a proper launch anyway. And you could go through the channels that work for you again and again. So just as an example, I launched Page UI, which is sort of a free, it's a free library if you want. It's a landing page component library, completely open source. And I launched it on Product Hunt, sort of as a sub product to Shipixon. And I got like 1,000 something dollars in sales from that, which is a pretty good. It's a pretty good result. I
A
actually had
pretty nice
expect.
funnel, yeah.
Yeah, because it is not even a direct. It's sort of a subset of Shipixon, so I would expect that people use that, and maybe in 6 months they think, okay, let me use the big boy now. Let me get all the benefits. So it was a surprising result, and the launch itself created a lot of buzz. It created a lot of views. I was looking for analytics. It was about 3 or 4 days even that this got 5 times the views, so around 1,000 unique views a day, which is an amazing amount of traffic to get by launching a free tool. And especially want to touch on the open source aspect of it, because being an open source free tool, I also got featured in a lot of newsletters. There's a lot of open source directories. There's a huge open source community, right? That's what runs the world. That's, most software these days have some sort of open source that's powering it. So there's a lot of people watching these, and those were completely unexpected to me. I got into something called TLDR. I don't know if you've seen that. It's like a huge newsletter. I got some sort of mention there. I got mentioned in the changelog. I don't know if it's a newsletter or some sort of watch thingy that they post weekly. Like, these are the new cool tools. And these are like huge publications. Like, changelog is one of the biggest tech podcasts out there. And there were people reaching out to me, like real life friends that have no idea that I'm doing this. And they were like, hey, I think I recognized you from changelog. Like, is this your project? And those are super strong backlinks. And then GitHub became a channel for me. I'm getting sales from GitHub, people finding the open source project there, then using it for a
GitHub is
while.
very good channel, just to mention that.
It's a good channel because people coming there, they usually have money. that's I that's an unfair thing, but developers, there's not enough of them, and they most of them get paid very well. So they, if the product saves them a bunch of time, it's an easy decision. Like, look, when I look at the pricing of something, and let's say it's a lifetime deal of $200, I think, okay, how much do you get paid per hour? Is $100, 150? Maybe you could get that in the Nordics, or in the US you get 200 or even more. Okay, that's 1 hour of working. Can I do this in 1 hour? And the answer is no, absolutely not. Sometimes it would take you 3 weeks, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's an
yeah.
easy purchase, and I think also that's why GitHub works, because if people come across your thing and a lot of them search for a product to solve a problem that they're having, that they want to. It's very funny. You go on GitHub to find an open source version that solves your problem, so you don't have to build it again. It's exactly that mindset.
Mm,
So it works very well for me.
mm. So if we have to wrap up all of this, like what would be, because for me, I think the most important part for people to understand, or why we are having this conversation, is that um, validation, like from idea to validation, I think that's like the most important thing. And then how you validate the product and where you validate the product. I think we spoke a lot about the community that we are in, but indie community doesn't have to be your way of validating the product. You could be working in a company, you could be a product manager, an engineer, you could know this problem very well, and you can validate that idea where you are. So I wouldn't push this narrative that you have to be in indie community or that you have to build a product for indie makers. It's just you're surrounded by people that might have a similar problem as you. And it will be easy for you to test this product with them and validate that. And then
Yeah.
when it comes to the channels, it's the same pretty much story. What is the best channel that you can use that you can see the results fast?
Yeah.
And then,
That's a really good wrap up. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think another component that we didn't talk about at all is this part of being active in a community and being a member of a community, right? Because I think that's for both of us, the things that made these products work were that we're active members in the community in the first place. So that would also be sort of an outside takeaway of this, because it's a lot easier to validate
oh,
if
for sure.
if you have direct access to a community, if you're embedded in the community that you build a product for. That makes it a lot easier, a lot more valuable.
Oh, yeah. And one thing to add on that is that, okay, you will validate the product, but you will also have the people to help you build the product. And example, in my case, I'm not doing Google Ads alone. I'm not doing SEO alone. I have Ili for that, and there's Philip as well. And then I'm working with Serhi when it comes to Google
Yeah,
Ads.
we have a
So
whole
all
team, huh?
we have like I have like we have a whole team around us that is working with
Yeah,
us
we
to
have
make this happen.
Nico for meta ads and so on. And
Exactly.
these people, they go really deep on the topic. They understand it, and then they will be a lot better than you are when you start, because
Oh, for sure.
you're just gonna when it comes to ads especially, you're just gonna spend a lot of money with very few results. That's my
Yeah.
experience, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's also a very important aspect of the community. And I think when we see big makers, we think that they work alone, but there is a group of people behind them as well, either to validate, support, or help them to do the
Yeah.
same. And I think we managed to, or we are trying to build that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that being said, I think we could definitely dive in some of the topics. I mean, if people listen to this and they feel like we should dive into the SEO or free tool aspect and so on, I'd be happy to show analytics and also your data driven approach. I would love to see. I don't know why you don't do this, but a tutorial on post hog and how to use it. You saw me use it. I'm like a child learning to ride a
Yeah,
bicycle.
before we started the show, Dan was showing something to me in Passog, and it was very hard to look at it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I do that with members. I'm jumping on call with Joao next week to dig deeper into Passog. I think it's much easier to do it on
Yeah,
the
talking
call.
about community. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know you do that. And it's not even the Morning Maker Show community. You do that with everyone. Like, just here's my Calendly
Yeah.
if you want
My
to jump in.
Calendly is always open. I love to look at other people Passog.
All right. Well, that being said, let's take some updates if you don't mind. There's been a really hot debate going on. We can start with that.
I love
Um,
that.
so we had, first of all, we had this huge event for indie makers across the world, I think. It kind of feels
Did you
like
watch it?
this was for us. Yeah. So Levels.io was on the Lex Friedman podcast, which I watched it. It was kind
It was
of
interesting.
surreal to see it, like, because his audience is not us usually. Like, I don't listen to it. Maybe there's an overlap because he's very big, but it was a bit surreal to see Levels there. And I think there's a lot to learn from him, but also a lot that cannot be applied to yourself. And he had this tweet just the other day where he says that the web development industrial complex has lied to your face. Authentication, yes, you can do it yourself. Scale, yes, you can do it yourself. Database, yes, you can do it yourself. Server,
Yes, you can do it for yourself.
you almost caught you on the wrong foot there. But and when your site goes viral, you don't need to pay a $20,000 bill.
Of course.
So there's a
It
lot to
makes sense.
unpack.
Totally makes sense.
There's a lot to unpack
Why
here,
would you
and
ship and move fast when you can just build these things for maybe sometimes this will happen? You need to be prepared, Dan.
you went right into it. So I think that's one of the things to understand from Peter Levels. I think he's putting on a show on X. So not I really think that he, like, deep inside, he's an all right guy. I think probably, but some of these things are also to get people to react on it, and there is
Oh,
always
yeah.
some truth in there. And I mean, of course, but it's just not a black and white kind of thing, because if you're starting out and you go in this indie maker community, what you're gonna see Mark Liu, probably, right? He's sort of the face, or the
The
upcoming
leader.
face right now. Yeah, he's the leader. And what's he saying? Well, ship fast. That's literally his T-shirt, his name. I think he has that
The
tattooed
name.
on his back now. That's it. And this is the exact opposite of that. I mean, if you get this idea and you're gonna spend time doing authentication from scratch, time deploying from scratch, time doing your database from scratch, you're in 3 weeks. The solution is probably less secure and less robust, and you didn't even start on the product yet.
It could be that he's just talking to a different audience at this point.
It could
That
be. And listen, there is a time for that. I'm not saying, and there's specific products that don't work well on serverless at all. And I have some of those. I have two of those. And I wouldn't recommend just doing that. But if it saves whatever you have around you, whatever tools, if you can pay $20 to save a week
like
of work,
3,000.
yeah, then do it. You can always move to your own server. And I think that is the bit of truth here, which is, this is an important skill to have. You should learn it, but you should use it when it makes sense and not use it
Exactly.
always. And then the other thing that you should unpack here is that Peter Levels, he has been doing this for what, 10 years more? Who knows? He's been doing this forever.
Mm.
And he had time to improve on these. I bet his first version of authentication wasn't as good as it is today. And he kept iterating on it and make it better and better and better, you know? And if you're buying into this idea, also buy into that. Also think long term, yeah, I'm going to do this for 10 years, then maybe it makes sense to invest into this and kind of have a server. I'm going to spend time, but then once it's set up, I can ship
Mm.
very fast and iterate. And then, yeah, it's going to take some months to get it up to snuff, but once I have it, I can keep adding projects to it, and it's going to be okay. And I don't think a lot of people have this motivation. When you just started, you need to make some money, you need to validate the product, as we talked before, you need to think about marketing channels, there's 100 different things you do. You don't have time to set up this freaking server, and maybe you have 1 year of runway left, and then that's it. And why did you do that year? Well, first 6 months I set up this pretty nice self-hosted solution, and the last 6 months I shipped two products and didn't validate them, and they didn't make enough money, so it's back to work now.
Yeah, makes no sense. Makes no absolute sense. I
Yeah.
think it's like, as you said at the beginning, we have this idea of how we are building these products and how fast we want to build these products. Once, if especially if this is your first time project, like you really are getting yourself in uncomfortable situation, not only with building, but trying to find yourself and your story, and then the marketing channels and what works, what doesn't work. Product itself, when it's done and when you push your marketing channels, have different ways of working, because then you're going to figure out, okay, wait a minute, you can implement marketing in the inside of the product, which is totally different type of building the product and way of thinking as well. So there's too many things that you will be put in front for just to lose time on building, securing, like these type of the things. I don't get it. I don't get it. And it could be that he's just talking to a different audience, that we are still seeing him as an active member of the community, but we are far, far away from each other.
Well, yeah,
So
he's talking to all audiences now, right?
yeah, yeah.
He's
I would
when you're
rather,
on the Lex Friedman, then you are talking on the global stage right now, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're absolutely right. And I think, and which I really like about you, Dan, you always mention to people how many years or experience you have to be on a certain level. So
Levels.
levels. It's very
But
good name though. Um,
I
so,
don't even know. I think that's not his real name, but if someone knows, I don't know if it's just,
but
or maybe he's probably crazy enough to change it to his real name if it wasn't, and now it is.
the main, come on, that's like childish game. Let me change my name. But I would rather take Mark's approach or your approach or Mac's approach, where there is, you can actually see the process of how these people are building or moving. And you can even like, something that I've realized in this community for indie hackers, it's much easier when they have a list of the things they need to do. And I would rather, when you're starting a new project, okay, let me build this, let me test this, let me validate this, find your own ways of how to do that. And it goes same through the marketing as well. Like if you have a list of the things you want to try, why, like if you take a look at the Philippe's product, why it went so well? Because it's a to-do list. You have a list of the things and you just send an email, you submit your product, you do this and that, and you are over, you are moving to the next thing.
Yep, yep. Because there's so much
So
to do.
there's so much to do,
Yeah,
so much to do. So I wouldn't bother, like,
yeah,
and I know
yeah.
building is fun, but
Yeah, that's also one thing, and I think some barriers, and I think it's really highly technical people will do this more for fun than it is for revenue. And if that's
mm,
what you want to do, then by all means build a server from scratch, because that's, it has to be fun if you enjoy doing that.
oh yeah, Yeah.
go for it, right? And it's if you do that anyway, you're probably pretty good at it, so it's not going to take you that long time. But most people, I think most successful indie makers, they're pretty much average across the board, which is quite funny. They're not really excelling in any of the things, and maybe that's why I look at myself and I think I should I should like just be more average at things. Like stop polishing. I really have a problem with design. Like I really polish design too much. I want before I launch it. But John has a friend of the show, John Rush. He has a take as well that if you're at the MVP stage, you should use free or cheap plans, and you can actually so stuff like Vercel you can get for free. Like technically, I'm gonna cancel for this, but technically, you need to pay once you become commercial. But I've seen people saying what they're gonna sue me if I wait like 3 more months before I make enough revenue to pay for this, and I don't recommend that. This is not financial advice or legal advice. But there are free plans still in all of these, and you could get pretty far even with the base plans. And the reality is that you get viral, and a huge traffic spike is I think this is not
Right.
I don't think this is
Yeah.
data science, but there's a very 0.0 something percent. It's a very very small percentage. Plus, CEO of Versal, Guillermo Rauch, very cool guy, awesome mustache as well. He he said that they've been making huge strides into preventing these kind of issues and having more caps and automatic protection and DDoS migration and so on. Because I don't think this is really their business model. I think, of course, they want the ones that have a lot of traffic to pay the bills, and I think that's why it's so cheap for the rest of us.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they want the same thing as indie makers, which is quite funny. They want you to use this to really like the development experience, and then what? Then you take it to your work, and they pay the bills,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And I'm really and I'm doing that. Like when I'm doing freelancing, I'm like, why don't you just use Next.js and boom, they got a customer, and then
Yeah.
it's on their pay slip. So there's that. There's also there's also I would really like this thing to happen. Alessandro said a podcast with Levels.io and CEO of Versal Rauch.
Look, we can host that
Oh
podcast.
yeah, yeah. There's we can clear our schedule, no
Yeah.
problem. We could do it anytime. And the funny thing is that Guillermo Rauch said he's down, and he would even do a cage fight. And really, I think this is one of the cool things about Versa. Like they've been getting a lot of crap, and there's space. Like I've been also guilty of writing some nasty things about them in the past, and I will probably do it in the future again because some of their stuff is kind of annoying. Some of the pricing changes and so on, but they are part of the community to some extent. Like every time I write something, and it's not just me, and it's only with Versal, so no other. I complain about a lot of things, right?
Me
Except
too.
for
It's okay. It's
Sentry,
fine.
like minus Sentry. I don't think I ever complained about Sentry because it's pretty good. But that day will come. Just I'm sure it will. But when I complain to others, there's nothing. When I complain about Versal, they're in my DMs. Like you either have Lee Robinson. So each sort of leader of the product
Team,
kind of
yeah,
gets
yeah.
yeah. So if I complain the analytics, then I forgot what his name is, but he will get in my DMs and so on, which is pretty incredible. It's just being
But we
part of
have
this.
experienced that. We have experienced that with the companies that are fully integrated into our systems and community. Let's say, like even with PassHog, it was the same situation. Whenever you figure out something, they were very fast on changing, improving, and doing something for the community. So it's like
Yeah,
it's a great approach from them as well, as you said, because they know what is the model
Yeah.
they are hunting, and they know target audience, and they know who we are, and that we fit into that.
Oh, now that you say that, now it comes back to me. I did complain about Sentry, and we were writing about, so Sentry catches all the errors, and sometimes the errors come from browser extensions. So it's completely outside of your. I mean, a browser extension can break your website, but there's still nothing you can do about it realistically. And I complained about that, and I saw that they've released a feature where you can filter out. I forget how the filter works, but you can filter out all the browser extension errors. Maybe I should write a small post on it. I haven't tried it myself, but just goes to show that there are companies that listen. Same Posthog, Sentry, good examples, but and Vercel. But then it kind of stops there. Like I complain about a lot of things. Like Cloudflare never engages with people.
MailChimp.
Bigger. If you complain about AWS, that's not gonna
I
happen.
love
Google
how you
Cloud,
have
stuff
your
like that.
dev problems and I have my marketing problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Yeah,
stupid mail. Oh, can I say?
yeah.
But
Lara, please cut this out.
yes,
So, so that's one thing, and the other thing is, look, I'm gonna do something. I hope I don't regret sharing this live. Okay, this is my Vercel. This is where I host every single one of my websites. I think go to my profile. It's a pretty long list. I don't even know how many plus experiments, right? I paid $20 plus this darn analytics, which I should disable, 14, right? $34. I just leave the analytics because of the historical data. This is how I started. Now I have Posthog as well, but I kind of like to see the history in here. But
yeah, I
besides
noticed
that,
that.
look at my usage. Okay, this is 29% is the highest. Something everything else is not even close to
Oh,
exceeding.
yeah.
So I'm not even close to paying extra on this. Right? I have Cloudflare in front, which might be a pro tip that caches a little bit more. I think I haven't tried turning it off and see if I'm going to get a bill instantly, but that is the fact is you could go a pretty long way with and this $20 kind of doesn't look bad right now, to be
And you can
honest.
definitely even optimize what's currently there.
Yeah. So also, of course, and you can always move it. And just to show, like one of the product, Shipixon, is running on Vercel as well, and it just did $3,000. So paying 20 to get it's a pretty nice margin, huh?
Oh,
I
yeah. Yeah.
and the time that I saved not deploying this, I can deploy things. I wrote this blog post just the other day, or it wasn't a blog post; it was more like a mouth blog. I wrote this tweet where I just wrote down the steps to set up a VM on Hetzner and to host something simple yourself. And I could go for those steps too. But the funny thing about that is you do it and it makes a lot of sense in some cases. But I got 100 different suggestions on, but also install this, and also what about the firewall, and also the DDoS thing, and also this, and also that, and they all make sense. And maybe you don't need all of them when you start because you're not going to get any traffic. But it's kind of nice to not think about that before you. So at this point, I could say
Yeah.
if Vercel all of a sudden flips a switch and it starts to cost 5,000 a month, then I could say fine. Then I go on Hetzner and host it myself. I use Coolify. That's another great option. And it's important to have the skill set to do that when the time comes. But I wouldn't do it as a starting point myself. I kind of like this. I think the developer experience is great. I think the performance is great. What can I tell you? Yeah.
Yeah. For the people just starting out, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
You
So
really like.
but speaking about people starting up and celebrating this wonderful community we have a post from Shivansh, and I will actually please read his name, Sandra, because you're pretty good at this.
Wow, Dan. I will never get used to this. But you are enjoying it too much. Shivansh Mehtarita Data? I didn't even read.
I'm so sorry, Shivan.
Yeah, but
I'm
he
so
can use
sorry.
this as a marketing strategy.
I am apologize for this. Such a bad look.
So Dan, can you do this now for
I'm
us?
laughing. I'm laughing at Sandra, not at your name. It's a beautiful name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mehen Tirata. Now it's better. I'm getting better in these things. Leave me alone. Read the post.
Please read the post. Slick that
Someone just
is.
crossed. We cannot work like this, Dan.
I'll shut up.
Slick just crossed $500 in MRR. Wrote the
No,
first line
it's
of the
slick
code.
that is. You see, that's why I said.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Okay, let's start over.
Slick.is crossed $500 in MRR, wrote the first line of code 11 months ago. We got 100 plus in MRR from our first product hunt launch. But I started working on 3 more new products at the same time: an SEO tool, a Twitter and LinkedIn scheduling tool, Reddit keyword monitoring tool. Oh, I'm excited for this one. While doing my consulting in parallel. In four crossed in all 4 crossed $100 MRR through the initial launches. I thought I had mastered the ship fast, 12 products in 12 months mindset, but very clearly I was doing something wrong. None of the products grew past that, including Slick. In the first 4 months, someone dropped a review on Slick, which changed the way I approached my indie hacking journey. Okay, I've
Okay,
been
so
looking.
that's
Yeah.
that's the overall but this chart is looking pretty decent, huh?
Yeah,
It's it's
probably by
588
volume.
MRR is not something you completely ignore. Like depending on where you are in the world, it could also be
Mm,
ramen profitable. Not in the
mm.
Nordics, but many other parts. It's an okay revenue for
Oh,
this.
for sure.
Yeah, what do you think about this
And
12
the
products in
growth,
12 months? Yeah.
I love the idea actually of that. I think if you're not dependent of making the money at that point, or you have some runway, or you have ability to like experience and learn, I think it's a great thing to jump in. Um, I, I mean, like every project you do, and I think the first project, when you take a look at the first project, you have no idea what you're doing. It's probably gonna fail. The moment you realize that, it's much easier to think about the ideas and see the problems you currently have in the products you are building, and then you have also ability to maybe pull those problems and build something around that and move faster. You have ability to connect with more people, to learn about marketing, or how to market yourself as well in the process. So I like the idea of moving fast and building these projects, but I would just make sure that this is not something that you jump in without having a runway, or some gigs or freelancer type thing, so you can kind of sponsor yourself through this experience. But I like it.
Yeah, that's maybe a good way to leverage your skills is to do
Mm,
freelancing and to also increase your runway. But I think I'm pretty sure he has other sources too. But I've seen also people that think, okay, uh, I'm I'm really not gonna make it. My runways is almost over, and I put all that I had into this, and time's up. And I basically can't do it. And it's also funny that this is non-linear, so you could do this for 12 months, you could do 24 months, nothing happens, and then the 25th month, you got it, and you're set. So the longer you can stay in it and throw things at the wall, then the bigger you'll increase your own chances to hit that product, because no one really knows what they're doing. No one really knows if something's going to be successful. No one really knows if something's going to make a lot of money or not. So yeah, but this looks super cool. Slick, create and edit viral shorts using AI. I think we should try this.
oh
The
yeah.
landing page looks pretty cool. as well. So I'm gonna let's try this after the show. It looks awesome. Congrats, Shivansh. This is awesome. Next update by you say it.
I can't see.
Next update by Onur Ozer.
I actually could see.
Just made my first internet money today. I feel so
Ah,
tricked.
the sweet.
$29. That's sweet, sweet
You know what
Stripe
happened?
email.
Listen to this, Dan. We've been doing this for a while now. I mean, what, 2 years? And we
You mean
went
the
through a
show?
lot of, yeah, the show, the
Yeah, it feels like 10
building,
years.
the
Yeah.
it like, and we went through a lot of lemon squeezy emails. But I got one for LB a few days ago, and it was from Alex, you know, and it was the best feeling ever.
There's
So
nothing like it. There's nothing like it. Not even close. So meet Lars. I love this website already. Meet Lars, your AI marketing guy. Lars helps founders and marketers develop marketing strategies and generate actionable growth ideas in minutes. Now, if this is a product made for you, if I ever saw one in my life.
there is a hair missing.
So it could be maybe every time you refresh, you get like a different persona, and one of them could be you for sure. So you can create customer profiles. This is pretty cool. Is what we talked about earlier. Refine your positioning, generate marketing ideas. Um, every time we do this, I want to try these products. I want to see how this works because this on paper sounds pretty cool. It sounds like, depending on what stage you are in the product, maybe this is more early stage, it sounds like it could give you some pretty good ideas on how to approach. So really fits into the topic of the show, this one. Did you pick it like this?
Yeah.
Such a professional.
Thank you very much. Since I moved from to-do list from the software to the paper and pen, I feel so much more productive in finding great things. By the way, I think we could actually do the show where we only try different products.
Can I just tell the people that the reason why you did that is because you're so cheap to pay Notion that you would rather write on paper than to pay the another subscription?
I paid one bill this year to Notion, and I'm not paying any other bill to Notion for the next like 5 years. I don't
How
care.
much was that?
It was a lot of money then. I can't even talk about it. It's like
Okay.
really hard on me.
Thousands?
No,
It's
thousands. It's
traumatic.
hundreds. Like for me, the limit is 100.
Yeah. I think Peter Levels was right, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna build my own Notion. Or I'm gonna write things down to the paper and then mail you.
That's the classic. It's kind of okay. It's not really a to-do app. It's like, yeah, it's kind of like a to-do app with bonuses, but that is literally the first development project
You
everyone
do,
starts
yeah.
with when you learn that that's the to-do app. So
I did a calendar though.
I wonder,
Yeah.
it's tough with the cat. Was that your first app
Yeah.
that you've built?
Yeah.
Okay,
And I did it for, why did I do the calendar?
respect, huge respect.
Oh, you know why? Because at that point, we were not this close, and Hunted Space didn't have calendar, and I wanted to have calendar for Product Hunt launches, and then I realized that we can add it to yours.
Yes,
Yeah, so I quit from my calendar. It was too hard.
which is super cool. A Hunted Space is becoming a bit of a hub for actually not only indie makers. Like I'm getting, I showed you 2, 3 submissions a day. And I want to celebrate that. We're almost up to 1,000 submissions in the calendar. And I want to surface these products. I want to reward the people that go on Hunted Space. And
I want to find out
make,
the traffic. Are they coming only from X, or how do they find?
we have
Hunted Space?
Posthog, but you
Yeah.
need to look at it. You need to
I need
apply.
to- yeah.
You need to apply some skills because I don't have any. But it's growing really well also with the newsletter, and this stupid pop-up that you made me do that works, and I hate it that it works, but it works.
Please put a pop out, or actually go to Hunted Space, check how cool pop out is there. Can you show it actually then?
Yeah,
Um,
sure. Yeah.
if
No,
you
I
don't
took it
have it
out.
on
I
your
can't.
website, do it right now. It's the most important thing.
Let me see if I can get it.
I think
Yeah,
many people are scared of it because they feel like we are pushing something. But if you make it cool, then it's.
yeah,
I
but I
have this
might
thing.
have dismissed it. No, there it is. Yeah. So here's a GIF. GIF. Okay, we just lost half the audience.
Come
I.
on, you know
It's a
what to
GIF.
do.
Yeah. So get everything you need from Product Hunt. Blah blah blah. To do lynch. Make it as number one, and it's very laid back and says cool email please. I want in, and there's a leave me alone button, which really I think makes a lot of people forgive you for this
Oh yeah.
otherwise annoying pop-up
Oh yeah.
that you don't want to deal with right now. So yeah, we got a lot of newsletter subscribers because of this. So I want to say nice work, but I also don't like it, so I won't say anything.
By the way, Dan put this pop out, I think, a day before Product Hunt launch.
Oh yeah.
I think it was something like that. Ah, I
And I was
miss
really
that.
afraid that it's going to affect the product on launch, but no one said anything about it. And
No,
actually, some people said it's cool and it created some hype around it.
yeah, yeah.
So if you're afraid it's going to mess up your product and people are going to be annoyed, if you do it this way in a more relaxed, I think another example is Post Hoc again. I
Oh
want to
yeah.
bring it up because their marketing voice and tone is very relaxed, is very laid back. I need to show you this. So Post Hog, we got it right here. And look at this. The cookie banner that everyone hates. It's this is Ursula von der Leyen. I mean, my Dutch is not up to standards these days, but she's literally doing the EU Commission is just giving you the thumbs up. So
Brilliant.
I mean, of course, and then further down, like you go through this, and then you see, they have the whole brand figured out. They have a
Mm.
mascot and all of that. So it's it's easy for them because they've built this and they had the resources to build it. But the part that we can all reproduce, if you go all the way to the bottom,
Oh
it's
yeah, this
this,
one.
and this one, which literally says, "This is the call to action. If nothing else has sold you, hopefully these classic marketing tactics will." And remember, this is a company with making millions or funded
Oh
with
yeah, yeah,
millions, and
yeah.
it's not a hey, Jane launched a $300 startup last week, and I cannot be mad at this. Like it says not endorsed by Kim K, and then says three people would
Would have.
have it to cart if this was a real cart. And
Plus,
then
it's eco-friendly. I mean,
eco friend, and then digital download, and then there's a star, and it says it's a web product and cannot be installed by CD. So it's like they're just making fun of all of this, and I think when people see this, you cannot be mad at this, really.
but you did that for the Morning Maker show as well, for the sponsors and for the community, for the pricing page. I think copy there is like get your keys or here's our keys to our home or something like that, which is
Yeah,
really
yeah, our
cool.
house keys, yeah.
Yeah,
But that
yeah.
was you're saying like if I did anything, but that was literally your idea that you made me do. So anyway, last update, and then we're off to do marketing. This is all we
Yes.
do here. Please take it. Who's this guy?
Dimitri, I love, we need to bring Dimitri on the show as soon as possible. Anyway, I'll message him later on. Such a fundamental question to decide. Do I want to build and grow a company, hire and scale it to millions in revenue? Or do I want to build a business around my life, hobbies, and I cannot read this word, with whatever it makes, I take it. I don't have an answer yet.
Curiosity.
Ah, yeah, it's actually my competitor, so I don't want to say that. I should not have said this. Oh, stupid. Sandra. Lera, cut this out.
That, where is it? Curiosity.com. Anyway,
No.
so uh, yeah, do you want to grow, make it big, or do you want to have a good life and enjoy it, but with less revenue?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which
Yeah,
one? It was an or question. You want both?
I want both. I want a nice exit. That would be nice. Um, I think I want a really nice balanced life where I work every day on something I like. So the stress and the hard and stuff don't destroy my motivation, and I don't burn out. And there is still idea of a farm, and I'm still waiting for John to give an update of that. But I think once you take like other people money, there is a certain pressure of making it not
Responsibility.
responsibility, making it not only for yourself or the product, but also for the people that have put the money in the company. Um, I think once you do that, also the fun part goes away a little bit. So I think this space where we are, if we are able to make money and live a comfortable life and enjoy our hobbies, like Dimitra said, it's much more healthier,
Yeah.
because essentially you are doing what you love to do. It's just that you are someone who is deciding on how to proceed next and what are the best options. And if shit hits the fan, you are the one that is taking that responsibility. So
Yeah, I agree, and the scale comes with, I think also as Dimitro mentioned, with hires and then more
yeah,
responsibility for those people
I,
and
yeah,
managing and so on. And I think one of the so romantically doing a solo business means that you can, on paper, you can organize your time any way you want. If you want to not work in a day or do something, spend time with family, or just fly somewhere, you can do that. Or you can be anywhere, you can work anywhere. And that is not very much compatible with growing, hiring, and uh, as an end goal, at least, right? Let's think about that as a best case scenario. If you make it in both cases, so you make it with 10,000 MRR, let's say, which is probably enough for most countries except the Nordics to live okay, depending on the size of your family, of course.
yeah.
And 100K MRR, but having 3 employees and
Oh, more.
more, and having all sorts of support requests and all sorts of issues, that immediately when you reach that scale, and I have just thousands on my own, and it's still, if something goes wrong, I immediately get emails like it's coming. if,
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, you get it, and wherever you are, you need to drop the thing and fix it. But that, I think that goes a bit like this in both scenarios. Of course, there's a difference between 1,000 and 10,000, right? That obviously you're going to get more requests, and I think I'm leaning towards the more relaxed path as well. But that's not to say that reaching 10K MRR is that easy either, right?
Oh yeah, and it's not an easy path as well. Like I
No.
think we also we put pressures on ourselves in both cases, because like even you would be the same designer and you would care the same way you care about design if you are working solo or for the company. It's just that you are that person. It's your personality. Like example for me in Clue, it was, I think the hardest part was the hiring process, because as long as or as long when it was on us, whatever happens, we fail, it's on us. But now you have people that are counting on this, and that's type of the responsibility that I haven't been introduced before.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was
it's
something new
new.
for
Yeah.
me. Yeah. So I think that's the main reason why this solo works better. The idea of that works better for me. And even though you're not that solo, there are, as we said, you have a community of people that will help you, and but
Yeah,
that
that's right.
aspect of other people's responsibility and lives is very hard for me.
I agree. With that said, I would like to thank you, Sentry, for sponsoring us. I love Sentry personally. I just got an email that I got a bug. So I will have to close it down here and fix the bug and live my relaxed lifestyle. God, I love Sentry. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Make sure to check morningmakershow.com. We're on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on YouTube as well. We do a live stream, and then Lara, our editor from Clipwing, she makes it really, really nice. And we post that on YouTube as well if you want to see the full quality of our face. That's where you get it. We're also on TikTok, if that's your thing, and on X, and we have a wonderful newsletter on morningmakershow.com. And I hear the next edition might come out any day now.
Yes.
Any day. So now is the right time to subscribe. Chandra, thank you for today. I had a blast. This is a really
Thank you,
good show.
Dan. Thank you, Dan. Let's continue having this conversation now for an hour more.
Yeah, that's member only
That's
access.
yeah.
So we're gonna call in the Morning Maker Show community and just chill on a Sunday.
Yeah. But thank you so much and have a lovely rest of the day and see you next weekend.
Bye.
Bye bye.